What is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York, calling from the quarantine zone again, and this time we are here with Martin of White Stones and Opeth. Thank you so much for being here today, man. It's great to have you here.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, it's awesome to have you here. So we got the new full-length White Stones album out, the sophomore album, Dancing into Oblivion. Did you want to just make a continuation from what we heard off of the first album for 2020? Is this kind of like the sequel, or was Dancing into Oblivion meant to be kind of like a new approach for White Stones in a way?
Well, I mean, it's obviously it's the second album from the band, and I don't know. I didn't plan anything. Everything came a bit. I didn't plan it, to be honest. I mean, I started writing this album the same week, I think, when we released the first album, which is pretty fast.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it all flew very well, and I was inspired. So I guess it's the continued from the first one, I don't know.
Can you see yourself making more White Stones album this rapidly? Can you make it like a once-a-year event, maybe?
I don't know. I will take it easy for the next one, but for sure I would like to do another one. Yes, why not?
Yeah, when it came to like the formation of White Stones in a way, being that you've all played in different bands, like was maybe kind of like an idea to combine all of your previous ideas into one sort of project, all of your current and former bands into one project, or was White Stones meant to be like a completely new experience and a completely sort of out of the box sort of thing from what you've normally done?
Well, I always been writing music when I have time off from Opeth, but this time I came up with this style. I don't know. Usually I do different things, but I think this is me. This is what I like to do. It's nothing about I'm missing anything from Opeth or anything like that. This is me, and I like to write this style of music. I feel good. I feel comfy. And I think it represents a bit my musicianship,
Yeah. And when it comes to like that, was the sound that we hear in White Stones, because it has like elements of like progressive death metal, it has like technical death metal, it has like, a lot of different heavier aspects. Do you have like was there like a specific goal that you had when forming White Stones? Was this the sound that you kind of went into White Stones with in mind, or was there like a lot of experimentation and a lot of trial and error in a way?
Well, it is experimentation. I mean, this is how I like to make music. I never been like keen to do one like a style like a proper death metal. I kind of feel like as a musician I like to experiment, and I like music in general. I like to put all the influences I have as much as possible without doing a kind of weird mix. I like to keep a style, but have all these influences in there. So I guess this is how I am as a musician. I like to have different styles in the music.
Yeah. And I mean, do you almost feel that maybe like you're expressing a different side of yourself from what you have done with Opeth? Like, is this like, if people want to get to know who Martin Mendez is, do you feel that like maybe that this is more of a personal project as opposed to Opeth in a way?
Well, for sure, it's more personal. I mean, in Opeth, I'm not writing the music, so this is me in White Stones. This is me writing the music, and that's something I don't do in other bands I play with. So yeah, for sure, this is, if you like to see how I approach the music, this is more like it, yeah.
Yeah. And what I find unique too is that like with White Stones and something, I mean, the last album, I don't know how to pronounce the first album's name, and I am very sorry about that. It's Q-Archy or something
It's
like
cool.
that. Yeah.
It's quite a hit. Yeah.
Okay, but like I remember listening to that when it came out last year, and going from a track like Rusty Shell to Worms to like the ninth track Taste of Blood or something like that. It almost seemed like there was a lot of different emotions and a lot of different vibes and stuff. Would you say that for both this album and for the new one, Dancing into Oblivion, it's like a range of different emotions that were felt over the last few years?
For sure. I mean, it's different period of time, and it is different emotions. I think the new one, Dancing into Oblivion, is a bit darker in a way. But I think you still listen to the same band. I mean, it's pretty much the style of the riffs. Maybe you can recognize it. I think is from White Stones. But this time, I wanted to do this album a little bit more technical, a little bit more complex, the writing process, compared to the first one. Because on the first one, I didn't have many restrictions, but I thought from start that I wanted to make something more easy to the ear, something not that technical. And Dancing into Oblivion is not an extreme technical album at all, but compared to the first one, it's a bit more. And that's something I wanted to do on this album,
Is it fair to say that maybe because this pandemic, it's either been like a complete creative dud for certain people, but it's also been a huge inspiration for people? Did this time of isolation maybe also influence, being that we were getting these albums in 2020 and 2021, is this as a result of the isolation and uncertainty we were all facing?
It is, for sure. I found the inspiration during this time, the lockdown, and all those weird feelings I guess everybody had in the beginning, with the pandemic. I think I took advantage of this time, all these feelings. I'm very glad that I could put all these emotions in the sounds, in the music.
Yeah.
So for sure, it helped me a lot. This, yeah.
And I know it's kind of like a big what-if question, but is it fair to say that if maybe this was just written like a lot of other solo projects was, you just do it when you're off a tour, or, just do it when Opeth is in between cycles or something like that, it probably wouldn't sound the way it sounds right now, right? I know that's a huge whataboutism, but...
Yeah, I mean, you never know what is going to come up next, but for sure, this strange period did influence me a lot, and yeah, as I say, I'm very happy I had the chance to make this album, because the next one I don't know when it's going to happen, because as you say, I will be out with Opeth for a long time, and so I take it easy in that sense. When I have the time, I will do it, but this time I had it right away when we released the album, so yeah. Why not?
And I know you mentioned that you're not really involved with the songwriting process for Opeth, but is there maybe any similarity between White Stones and Opeth? I mean, you're bringing your instrumentation in it. I'm sure playing live with Opeth, I'd imagine, has some creative elements behind it. So is there anything that maybe makes it similar to Opeth, or is it a completely different state of mind?
Well, I mean, it's different because Opeth is everything is much bigger in a sense. Opeth is more. White Stones is I kind of involved in everything. From the music to the artwork and the videos, everything. I will say it's more homey kind of work. With the White Stones, it's smaller everything. But. I don't know. I mean, I come from Opeth, For me, I've been playing in Opeth 25 years or whatever it is. So I guess I learned a lot during all these years. So everything I know, I use it in this project as well. But it's a completely different approach. As I say, it's more it's more, yeah, it's more me. Everything.
Yeah, you mentioned that you're also in charge of like the artwork and the artistic direction of it. And so, like, do you maybe like as you're writing more music, develop a vision for the visuals and whether it's the album artwork or the music videos? Does this vision sort of come as you're writing more music? Like, does it come, gently and gradually, then suddenly, or do you sometimes have like the music video in mind? Like, I'm writing a song for this specific image.
No, I think everything comes with the time. I start with the music, and then when the music is done, I kind of get all the ideas for the artwork and the videos, all that. So yeah, I think it comes after.
Yeah. And I was wondering too with your instrumentation, because especially with this music, I find it very technically impressive, because I feel like with especially with this like sort of progressive style, I've always said it's like I've called it the naked genre, because I feel like if you slightly botch one note, or if you slightly go off time, everybody's gonna hear it, whether you're playing in like a small little club or you're playing in a stadium. It's always gonna be heard. Do you have
Yes.
do you have sort of like maybe a background in theory with guitar or bass, or are you completely self-taught?
I do have a little bit, yes. I'm not. I never went to like a music school, but for sure I study myself a lot. Um, so I do have some theory behind me, but when it comes to writing music, I I never think about that much. I trust my ear, my feelings. And sometimes I make music which is more correct, in a sense, by the book, but sometimes it's completely different, and yeah, I mean, I think for me, as I was been trusting my ear, my ideas first, but theory, of course, it helps to give you a guide and to make things sound good in a way.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's always one of those good things to know whether you use it or not. A lot of musicians I interviewed who are real theory freaks,
Yeah.
like they just like they said, I don't even think about it. It just kind of like it's just kind of molded into the musical soup that I have.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, as a musician, I think you have to know theory for sure. But as you say, I mean, for me, it's more about trusting the feelings and your ideas, because sometimes if you are obsessed with the theory, I think you lose something, or the music doesn't come that excited.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I interviewed Taria, and she's completely trained in theory and opera and musical. But like she says, yeah, like if I presented Nightwish or any of my solo stuff to like a bunch of theory teachers, they would be disgusted. I no disrespect to White Stones or Opeth, but like I think if you presented Blackwater Park to a music teacher, they'd be like, this is it, this is chaos, this is a disgrace, you're
Oh,
a
yeah.
traitor.
For sure, it's blasphemy.
Exactly, exactly. When it comes to playing music that is both very, very melodic and very, very heavy as well, because like when you're playing along with White Stones, having this sort of progressive technical side, but also playing along to Michael Ackerfeld's vocals. I mean, that's both very aggressive and also very melodic. Do you almost feel that like you have to adjust your technique in a way to sort of fit a different vocal style or a different essence of melody in a way?
Well, to play in a band like Opeth, I think you need to be able to to have different styles and different techniques, for sure. It's so many dynamics in the band, in the music. So I think you need to know all these different styles or different techniques to make sound good. Otherwise, it will be, well, it wouldn't be the same. I think same as guitarist and drummer. Everything. I think to play in a band like that, you need to know a little bit more than just metal.
Definitely. And I know that with Whitestones you were doing both guitar and vocal, doing guitar and bass. Sorry, but you know, I always like to have this discussion with bass players. You know, in the world of rock and roll, I'm sure we've heard our fair share of terrible bass player jokes, but I'll stand up for you now because you know bass has such an emphasis on rhythm and melody. So when it comes to tracking. When it comes to tracking any form of bass, do you almost like need other music to know what to play, or do you sometimes have like a whole bass pattern written down, and maybe that could dictate the music itself?
Well, you know, when I write music for White Stones, I kind of almost every song I start with the guitar. The bass, I pretty much is the last thing I do. Because I like to have the drums done firstly. I have like I do like a bass in when I do the demos, but I on purpose I kind of left a lot of fills and everything empty or open to interpret it when the drums are done. So I like to experiment a lot on the bass because it's the instrument I feel more comfortable in the studio. So it depends on the song or the part of the song. I kind of get the idea what kind of sound or what kind of technique to use in that particular song or part. But yeah, I mean the bass, as I say, is the last thing I kind of try to compose in the music.
Do you know like other forms? Like, do you know the upright bass too, or any of that fun stuff?
Well, I do a little bit. I mean, I play a song with Opeth in the album Heritage. The song called Heritage is an upright bass.
Oh, wow.
That was the first time I record with an upright bass. But I haven't done it since then, and it's something that I would love to keep doing because I think it's lovely played upright bass.
Yeah,
yeah.
It seems so pressuring. How do you know what to hit without those frets? I mean, I don't. How do you remember where to place your fingers?
Yeah, I mean, it takes a lot to take. I used to play fretless bass a lot back in the day, so I think that helped me a little bit. And kind of knowing it's completely different technique, the upright bass.
Yeah.
You play the hands is completely different, the technique you use. But for that song I record with Opeth, I was studying when I went to a teacher. She kind of teach me in 2 months how to stand up and how to put my hands and the right technique to play that right.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
There's like 10 things you need to master before you can play a single note on it.
Yeah.
And it's funny too. There's a technical death metal band called Obscura, and they've used fretless basses before, and it just sounds so different. Like it really has like their fretless bass. It almost sounds like there's sort of like a wah pedal incorporated with it or something like that. It just has like a little more ambience behind it. Not to say that there's anything wrong with a bass with frets, but there's just a huge difference.
Yeah. It's lovely. I love the fretless bass. I mean, for me, talking about basses, Jaco Pastorius has always been my kind of hero, so, and the fretless bass comes from him, so yeah. It's lovely, the sound.
Yeah, I still don't understand how some people could sing and play bass though, because that seems like singing and playing guitar, I'd imagine is easier because like your vocals are sort of following the melody and the rhythm of that, but like, I mean, like to this day I don't know how Sting can do what he does.
Yeah, it's a difficult thing. Yeah.
And the final question I wanted to ask you is, if you don't mind, there's just one little Opeth question I wanted to ask you, if that's cool. But I know that probably every interview you've done from probably 2019 to now, they've been asking you about the 20-year anniversary of Blackwater Park. But I am not going to ask you about that. I want to know, next year is the 20-year anniversary of Deliverance, which is actually my favorite Opeth album. I was just wondering if maybe you could tell me anything about that record cycle for the 20-year anniversary of Deliverance. Like, what was the state of mind for Opeth at the time? How was the touring for that? How was the time of Deliverance, as I like to say?
Sorry, say again. I couldn't hear you the last thing.
Yeah. How was the time of Deliverance? Like, what was? Yeah.
I mean, the recording time.
Yeah, the recording and the touring and all that.
Well, I mean, that's a special album for us because, I mean, that was the time where we wanted to make a double album with Damnation, but for different circumstances, we released them both separately. But that was a tough record, for real, for the band. That was a tough period for the band, better say. It was a time during the recording that we thought maybe that was the last album of the band because, well, the band wasn't in a good shape at all. Not musically, otherwise more personal things, you know. But I remember when we finished this record, it felt like a kind of a victory because we done it. And as I say, in the meantime we were recording, we didn't know if we were able to finish it and to get the record done in the way we did. But I was really happy when we finished the record. And and we start touring, and I mean the song Deliverance became one of the greatest hits in Opeth songs. So it's an important album, very important for the band.
Yeah, it's fair to say that Deliverance, I mean, I don't want to, speculate in any way, shape, or form, but is it fair to say that Deliverance was like a very deteriorating album to make?
Yeah. Oh, yes. And Damnation as well. I mean, Damnation was recorded at the same time, which is completely different album, completely different sound, but I think I kind of relate the same emotions in both albums. But yeah, I mean, very important album for the band, and I love it.
Yeah,
I love it myself too. Yeah.
I'm glad I got to ask about a different album than Blackwater Park. Great album, but like there's a lot more. I think with Deliverance, I feel more like of a raw emotion behind it in a way. I mean, going from a Still Life to Blackwater Park, great change, but then going from Blackwater Park to to Deliverance is just really a force to be reckoned with. So thank you for telling me about that.
Good, man. Thank you.
Yeah. So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for such a great conversation. Is there just anything else with this Whitestones album that you would like to promote? I mean, can we maybe be expecting some live performances from Whitestones in a way? This sounds like a great music to hear live. And also, if there's just anything you'd like to plug with Opeth as well.
Well, I mean, about Whitestones, I would love to debut live because we haven't debuted yet. With 2 albums out, I mean, it's weird to not play live yet, but hopefully this year or maybe next we will do it. And for sure, I will love to come to the US and play for you guys as well, because that will be a dream to come with Whitestones. And yeah, man, this tough period, tough times, but I hope this gets better now and we can start touring again and have some live music again.
One of the final shows I saw was you guys was Opeth at Apollo Theater before the world ended, and that was that was my first time in Apollo Theater as well. So
a nice theater,
yeah. And I saw you at Radio City, which I graduated in that venue. So that's where I had my graduation ceremony. So
awesome venue too.
Yeah, thank you so much. And if worst comes to worst, maybe we could get a third Whitestones album next year. Keep it going.
Yeah, why not?
But thank you so much, everybody. We are here with Martin of Whitestones and Opeth, Dancing into Oblivion. Be sure to check it out. You will not regret it. This is Alex from Heavy New York, and we will see you next time.